Welcome to The Ignorant Catholic. I'm your host, Joshua James King, and this is my friend, Mr. Dom Malgeri. He's from a cool podcast called Curiously Catholic. And today we are doing the Exodus 90 reality documentary commentary. I don't know, what is this? What are we doing?
I think it's all those things and more.
Yeah, and more. Woo! So Exodus 90 is basically what would you call it? Asceticism. If you don't know what that is, it's basically, you watch do you ever watch the Da Vinci Code and that dude like whips himself with like whips and stuff? Yeah. That's basically what the world thinks asceticism is. So that's the meme version, and you can go and figure out what it actually is yourself, or you can just watch this podcast and you'll find out naturally. But it's ascetic practices for spiritual growth and enlightenment, as well as deepening your prayer life. And I believe you had the Archbishop on your podcast, Dom, talking about how this program was the most, I don't know what, intense or valuable prayer life of his whole religious life.
So the most intense experience he's had in his whole religious life, and he's a Morris priest. Well, he was a Morris priest. He's now an Archbishop.
Yeah. So it's pretty good, I think. And what we're going to do with this playlist series is we're going to be just doing our morning catch-up. So part of the program is catching up every morning with your anchor, who is, I guess, your accountability partner, and you just debrief every day to see how you're going, because it's hard. And we're going to do ours on this live every morning, except for this episode because it's a pilot episode. So we've got a few questions we're going to go through, and you just saw Dom's wife Jess presenting some cool something that you couldn't tell because it was very half in the picture, but that's cool because that's all part of the podcast.
But did I just see your facial expression?
No, she sees yours.
I mean, why don't you tell us a little bit about Curiously Catholic before we get started, Dom?
Yeah, so Curiously Catholic is part of the Evangelion Apostolate, and that's a Catholic apostolate that I started with two of my friends 2020? Yeah, 2020. March 2020, we got together and we decided to start an apostolate, and that led us down a crazy path, which has meant we've done a virtual conference with international speakers, and we've started running retreats. I do a podcast. One of the girls, Adele, runs a blog, and the whole point of it is to start talking about, work out how to be Catholic in contemporary times, and how to spread the gospel, how to get on fire for our faith. So the podcast I do, I try and do 2 episodes a month. I'm going to be doing once a month. I'm going to be talking with Josh, because apparently I can't get enough of this guy, and we're going to be talking about apologetics. And then I've got 10 other episodes for the rest of the year, and I did one already on Exodus 90 with a guy called Kyle Walsh, a guy I met on Instagram, and so that was pretty interesting. Got one coming up about community and politics and economics, and then we're going to talk about how to live in a family as a Catholic, and the sacramental worldview and beauty as a way of seeing the world. Got lots of things lined up for the rest of the year as well.
Sounds pretty cool. I think it's worth checking out. I'll put the link in the description for anyone who wants to check out the channel. So we're currently on day 4 of the Exodus 90, which is basically 90 days of no enjoyment whatsoever apart from God. So the only thing you're allowed to enjoy is God. And unless your wife vetoes one of the rules for you because she's getting tired of all these restrictions on your life. But that's just an extra blessing. So, but they come from God, right? Because your wife is a blessing to you from God, I'm sure.
Amen.
So it's 90 days long, leading up to Easter. You can consider it an extra intense, extra long Lent in a way. So we started on the 17th this week. First question of the day that we're going to go through is what was good about yesterday, Dom? Do tell.
Yesterday was awful. So yesterday was the first fast day. So on in Exodus 90, we have to do 2 fast days, Wednesdays and Fridays, and they have to do what they call the Catholic fast, which is 1 meal and 2 other small meals that together don't add up to 1 meal. Oh, thank you so much. That's my daughter, Jemima. She's just presented me with an Avengers coloring in book, which includes stickers. Which, you know, I can't go on my phone. So this is now how I'm going to be entertaining myself for 90 days.
Hey, time with your daughter, that's pretty good. I mean, more quality time, maybe.
Well, I won't let her color in on these because she's just awful at it. No, but yeah,
wow.
yesterday was the first fast day. It was the first Wednesday we had. So I always mess up because the thing for me with Exodus 90 is food. I wouldn't say I'm a foodie, but I am. I eat a lot of food. I'm a bit of a grazer throughout the day, so I'm a bit of a hobbit. You know, I've got like 16 meals a day. I have breakfast, brunch, 11s, morning tea, afternoon tea. You know, all meals in between. So with Exodus 90, you're not allowed to snack in between meals, which I can just about handle. But yesterday I had to essentially get rid of like a whole meal, and I almost died. So yeah, it was a fight to not become really grumpy and grouchy with my whole family. But I need to work that out for tomorrow, which is Friday, our next fast day. So
it's quite funny, I was thinking about the whole like not becoming bitter because I was feeling a bit bitter as well. And yeah, it did occur to me, you know, someone would probably ask, you know, this prayer thing and that you're doing is supposed to make you a more holier person, but it seems to just make you more of a bitter person. So how was that good for you?
Yeah. I think that really is the fight because like the thing with Exodus 90 is like you can treat it as a bunch of rules and then you're always going to be grumpy. But then if you actually treat it as like a lifestyle change, you can actually become happier in it. And I always find by the end of Exodus 90, I'm like, I could do this all year. And then, you know, day 91, I was like, yeah, I could also eat a bit more, you know?
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people don't, I mean, it's kind of a silly question. Well, it's not a silly question. I mean, if you're experiencing the brunt of someone's bitterness because they're doing this program that's supposed to make them holier, you know, you're going to just want to like poo-poo it a bit. But at the same time, I think the rules really just help you to grow into something that will make you a better person. And I suspect that what this program's doing is it's forcing us to spend time with God. And the more we spend time with God, to sustain ourselves, to get past the hard times, to grow us in spiritual maturity, we do become better people. So that when we go back to normal life, we are better people. And we can learn to control and balance the extent to which we indulge. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
It's a rubbish truck. What's up, bro?
I'm sure it's a very good truck.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, one of my friends I did it with a few years ago, last year he got married and I hadn't seen him since Exodus, and I was like, bro, you really in shape. How do you do that? It's like, yeah, I just didn't stop doing Exodus 90. And I was like, oh, well, I failed. It's like he just kept up the practices of regular and intense exercise, daily prayer, not snacking in between meals. And I was like, that's such a good idea. So that's kind of my goal this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I mean, I kept up the cold showers from last year, but exercise wasn't really kept up. I'm hoping to keep that up this year as well. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I asked what was good about yesterday, and you told me what was not good. So what was not good this time? Meaning, tell me what was actually good.
I guess. Well, I mean, because I was so tired and I wasn't very present, but I did manage to keep my anger and bitterness at bay quite a few times. I felt that they were victories. So like looking after the girls and you know, my wife, and just think, you know, actually just put myself aside for a second. And when I did that, it would manage to. I still managed to find joy, even though I was kind of like grumpy. And I guess one thing that I learned from that is what makes me grumpy is me trying to get what I want and not getting it the way I want it. But if I say, you know what, if I just put my things aside and I do whatever my girls are doing, like potentially ruining one of my Avengers coloring in books, I can actually enjoy that time with them. And so I found joy in simpler things than I would usually have had. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess so. You have grow your broader appreciation for the things around you in your life, which allows you to be more attentive in the future, I guess, when things are not as easily accessible to you, such as technology and mind-numbing indulgences. What would be your future potential concerns? Do you have any growing concerns? I mean, you've done this a few times, haven't you? So you kind of know what the struggles are.
Yeah, I think as I've done it each year, it's kind of like a scaffolding thing, and it's not been a problem. Like I was reflecting on my cold showers the other day, and I remember when I first did it, my whole attitude towards Exodus 9 was like, okay, this is meant to be uncomfortable. This is meant to be horrible. So I'm gonna psych myself out, and I'm gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be awful. And then got into the shower, and it was terrible. And now I go into cold showers, and I still don't enjoy them, but I'm not terrified of them. But like going forward, I think, you know, the thing that I always need to improve on is like, you know, it is the fasting. I need to make sure that I fast well, but I don't overindulge. I don't like be too austere, so that people, you know, don't allow my mortification to become other people's mortification. So yeah, that and time management, trying to fit it all in and do it well is, I guess, my goals for going forward into these rest of these 90 days.
Well, I'm interested in that statement. Don't let your mortification become others' mortification. Why is that bad as a Christian to do that, Catholic?
Well, I think there's a few things. It's like if you're like, you know, you're saying we're doing this to make ourselves better, to make ourselves holier. And if we're trying to make ourselves holier and the whole time we're just being really horrible to everyone around us, it's like, yeah, well, I'm fasting, so you need to start being nicer to me, or like you're just getting really grumpy with everyone. It's like, that's like, I guess it's kind of like with the saints, they bring us closer to Christ with the beauty of their life. And if we're being grumpy and miserable, that's not beautiful. So it's not going to be bringing people to Christ. It's probably going to be pushing people away. And so if we're supposed to be loving to people and we're supposed to bring them closer to Christ, not necessarily by our words, but by our actions, if our actions are horrible, then that's not going to be helpful. And then there's also the whole thing of, you know, don't let your left hand know what your right hand's doing, or I always get my left and right mixed up on that. So it's like, oh, he's fasting again. How can you tell? He's being horrible. You know, we're meant to be, as Christians, we're meant to be a joyful people, and we're meant to bring the joy of the gospel to people, not the fire and brimstone and well, not even that, just being an awful person.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking, like, if we're loving people, you know, a loving person, like if mortification is meant to grow us and discipline us and help us to be more holy, it's definitely a strong understanding in I think Christianity that you shouldn't be forcing other people into holiness, because that doesn't make sense. Like, it's not really a loving act. And so if we're called to be loving, if living in love is what it is to be with God and to be the fullness of who God made you to be, then you're not going to be dragging people against their will into heaven, so to speak, or like forcing them to grow or be holier, which is kind of a weird thing to say, particularly with the idea of the way to do that is to like cause suffering for someone else. But yeah, I mean, like I said before, I think the whole point is discipline, right? Like if you willingly choose to take on hard things and willingly choose to try and be of a certain mind in doing those hard things, you are going to be growing in your ability to be centered in love and God and what is maybe more important in life, rather than being centered in how easy life's being for you. You know, because it's easy to be a good person or to be a chill person or a non-disruptive person when everything's going your way, you know. But it's like, are you actually a good person, or are you just reflecting the fact that you're getting what you want?
Well, I think also it's like, I think like Jordan Peterson talks about like, people say that the odd thing with nature is that, you know, so when something bad happens, that's not the norm. When it's actually naturally that is the norm. It's a miracle that people get on well together. And he does this whole thing is like the fact that the lights are on in this room means that people have coordinated together enough to work together to get these things working, to get the machines working, to lay the cables, to get fill the lights, to turn them on, so that when you just flick a switch, it all just works. But like naturally, I think nature is more inclined, I guess, to destruction almost, and like to, you know, not being nice. And I suppose what we're trying to exemplify is like even in like bad situations, we have the grace of Christ, and through that grace we can be beautiful people, we can be good people, we can be loving people. And I suppose this is like a training for being good in bad situations.
Yeah, you can be the light in a dark space, essentially, which is what we're called to be, really.
Yeah, and so like we need to train for that. It's like it's not going to be a case of like, no, you're not going to go to a prize fight not having done any training. You just turn up in a fight. It's like, okay, I'm going to be able to punch this guy in the face, and it's going to work. You know, you have to work on your ability to dodge his punches, and you'll have to be able to know when to strike and where to strike and how hard to strike. And you need to train yourself so that when you're met with that situation of someone coming at you with a fist, you know how to move. And so in this situation, it's like when you're faced with austerity, or when you're faced with like someone grumpy at work, or you know you haven't slept very well because your kids have kept you up, and then they're screaming in your ears, like how do I present Christ to these people? And you have to train yourself for that. You can't be like, oh, I'm just gonna do it, it must be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, like every so often God intervenes and he'll just give you the grace, but like he wants to work with us. He doesn't want to.
Yeah, and I tend to find that God doesn't really do that if you're not trying.
Yeah, well, yeah, you
Unless,
have a relationship with him, eh?
Yeah, unless you like kind of want to try a small amount, and everything's gone to the crap, and it's the last minute save, and he pulls you out of the hole. That's the only time he'll do it, when you're not trying. Yeah, I do find that when it comes to trying to live out this life of like being a more loving person and being light in the darkness, when you're going through, the desert, so to speak, right? When you take away all the numbing agents of your life to numb any pain and suffering and hardship and anxieties, which is what you could call indulgent pleasures, when you take them out of your life and you're in the desert, you really need God. The only way you can really sustain it and be that good person is to rely on God and prayer. Definitely been my experience. Definitely seems to be what I see in the world as well. And interestingly enough, I find some of the most amazing spiritual experiences people have had have always been when they're in like really deep suffering, and they've turned to God in that suffering, and they suddenly have this tremendous, overwhelming experience of love and God's presence and closeness to Him, and it's like the greatest joy they've ever experienced. But it comes in possibly the greatest suffering that they've ever experienced. And you could say that perhaps the only reason we really turn to God and lean on Him and really desire Him comes when we're desperate, unfortunately, rather than being something that we yearn for and do daily.
Well, I think
it kind of simulates that.
The desperation is symptomatic of, okay, I've given up on everything else. Now I've only got God. And so when you only have God, you've got everything. But like before that, because like one of the things it talks about is, what the Archbishop talked about, he said, is God enough? Is the question that you get asked, like not specifically, but like that's a question that Exodus 90 is asking. It's like, is God enough for you? You know, if you take milk out of your coffee, he's like, are you leaning on coffee? Is coffee a crutch? If you put coffee in the place of God, it's like, so no, I need coffee in order to function. It's like, no, you need God. You started to lean on coffee. Or like, no, I need to watch I need to watch TV for like 2 hours after I get back from work so I can defrag. It's like, no, that's not what you need. That's what you've put there. It's like, can you get rid of that? Is God enough for your life? And I think that's the question that Exodus 90 like forces you to ask. And it's definitely something I've been reflecting on, especially because I only really discovered coffee in the last couple of years. And it went from being an aid to helping me with my study to being an aid to help me wake up in the morning. And then all of a sudden, my coffee's becoming my morning prayer, kind of thing. Instead of turning to God and say, give me the strength of the day, I said, coffee, give me the God for today. What?
Yeah, that's so interesting. There's a couple things there. Like one, the comment you get from atheists, which is like, oh, God's just a crutch. You know, this is actually like a common theme within New Zealand. There's a study done 2 years ago that said that people think that Christians just use God as a crutch, and that's okay. That's cool. You can have that if you like. But then there's like this interesting part, which is like an atheist would probably look at us and go, well, God doesn't exist. So, you know, like the idea that God is enough for you when you have nothing just seems stupid and foolish. You're just going to have misery. And their expectation should be that we're just going to have absolute misery, but that just doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, if you went and looked at the number of Christians in the world who had absolutely nothing and were in deep suffering and yet would talk about being in such incredible joy because of having God, and then going, what the heck, how does that make any sense? Like, what is this God you speak of that brings so much joy in the deepest sufferings? And if you were to just evaluate that and like, I don't know, write down all the testimonies and come up with common themes as to what is it that God gives people in their like psychology and in their own experiences, what is this need, this deep need, or this deep essential, you could call it perhaps the most essential thing a human needs in order to be in great joy no matter what the circumstances. Because that's, I mean, when it comes to science, when it comes to you know, your secular and sort of non-religious attitudes, it's, we want to know what's reliable, we want to know what we can depend on, what's going to get us through life, what's the most consistent factor that makes life successful. And if you could find a factor that makes life joyful no matter how terrible the circumstances, wouldn't that be the most reliable and the most dependable factor? And scientifically speaking, you could say for a human to live the fullest human life, this is the thing that you should have. And it's from an atheist perspective, it's this psychological narrative, right? But if that's true, if there's some kind of like narrative that when you think on it, it becomes the most reliable thing in the world, like more reliable than any other factor of scientific proof, like sleep or whatever psychologically helps you. If it is the most reliable, then I would just argue that that's actually scientific evidence for its truth, that it's actually true. It's not just some narrative, but perhaps there's actually a truth to it, that it's beyond just the psychology, that it's actually something happening to you, which is certainly what the science of psychology would tell you. Like, oh, you get sleep, or you drink water, or you do these things, and it actually sustains you, and it has a real effect. It's not just it's not just something that's imaginary or fake.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting, and I don't know. I always think about these things with regards to how atheists often accuse Christianity as being silly, and yet if you look into it, you find it being extremely robust. Last question that we might just jump into, but I accidentally closed my phone, which has the notes, because I'm not prepared, and this is a pilot episode. What's your plan for today with life? How are you going to tackle it, and work, and with respect to where you fit in prayer? Like, how's that going? Are you finding like a regular prayer schedule? Because I know that's something we find hard to do.
So I managed to wake up before the family this morning, so I got the readings done. And what I've been doing is in the evening, because I'm not watching TV, my wife and I are doing Bible in a year. So
cool.
I managed to put those two things in, and then in between I'll try and do a little bit more. But like, you know, the exercise 90 says do a holy hour, but if you can't do 20 minutes, so I'm already doing probably about an hour actually, after I've done a good reflection on the readings. So what I do is I read it over before everyone wakes up, and then when I'm doing my breakfast, I kind of reflect on what's been said, and maybe even go into the scriptures a bit more. So that's how I fit in the prayer aspect. But like I said, for me, food's the biggest struggle. And on day one, with the no snacking rule, by the time it came to lunch, I was feeling a bit lightheaded. So I'm going to push my breakfast back a bit, so then I can make it through to lunch, and trying to work out. And I think it's quite an interesting thing for me is like always trying to work out what counts as a meal, how much is too much, and like, because I think what I do usually is it's like I just eat something at a mealtime, and it's like, it's okay, I'll eat something else later. I'm like, well, no, let's be intentional and let's eat a meal now, so I don't have to eat something later, and I can make it through to the next meal. So I guess I'm still working that out. I've got my exercise tonight as well. So 3 days a week. So I'm going to be, trying to work up a sweat tonight. So yeah, that's my plan. Kind of, just loosely. Make sure I eat enough. Do my workout, and stick to my prayer. So yeah.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, that's pretty good. Do you find your prayer is sort of fluctuating, or are you able to do it at a consistent time every day?
Oh no, definitely not consistent. I mean, like, I suppose the morning and evening thing is fairly consistent within half an hour of each other. Sometimes I'm battling my 2-year-old for time to read through this. It's like, can I just read through this? It's like, yeah, but I want to listen to music. It's like, well, I just need to listen. I just need to read this, and then we'll do the music. So there's that, and that obviously makes it a bit longer, and a bit more difficult to accomplish. But I think what will be interesting is I obviously start work on the 21st of Feb, and that's in the middle of the Exodus 90. So I'll have to change everything up again, and I'll have to work out how to fit in some sort of prayer and working out around that as well. So that'll be an exciting adventure. Yeah,
true. We didn't really talk about me today, about how I'm going. It's all about you, man. Yeah, that's good.
Well, you're asking the questions, bro, so I just answered.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's cool. I can do a quick version of me. What was good about yesterday? I mean, I don't know. It was a bit of a weird day. I don't think I had a great day, but there's still really awesome parts. I think I just spent a lot of time working on podcast stuff, setting it up. That's why we're doing podcasts today. So that was good.
Hey.
I was not good. I think I was a bit bitter, from all the fasting and stuff. It was a bit hard, and I was feeling a bit defeated about some of the work tasks I had, and so trying to turn to prayer. But it was a bit, I don't know. I've just been found prayer a little bit hard yesterday. But sometimes I think it's like that, and sometimes I think you just need to be still with God and sort of like allow him to sit with you like a person sitting with a sick person in hospital. You don't need to say anything, you just need to be present, and there's something really good about that. Kind of both aware of like the sufferings you're going through and the difficulties, and that's enough. Future concerns are probably, I'm not very good at keeping to a schedule, and I really want to, and I have a plan of when I'm going to do prayer and all those sorts of things. But like this morning, I was supposed to get up at 6 to do my prayer and my exercise before we caught up, and I'm like, bro, can we talk at 7? And but there is a degree to which we need to look after our health in these times with COVID and whatnot.
Indeed.
And we've both got pregnant wives, so we need to be strong and like healthy. And I wasn't feeling the best.
I did a similar thing. I got about at 6 o'clock, and I was like, actually, I'm not going to work out this morning. I'm just going to go to bed.
But no, I'm going to do exercise now, and I did a few push-ups before we talked to wake myself up, and that definitely made me feel better. So pushing through the things you don't want to do, even when it's hard, and then you reap the rewards. That's part of this whole program. So that's it for today, and we'll catch up tomorrow and see how we're going. It might not be as long, because it'll be more of an update as opposed to a introduction to all the different aspects of Exodus. Thanks everyone for showing up. Check out Curiously Catholic, and tune in tomorrow morning. God bless. Bye.
God bless. Bye.